We will start in a comfortable seated position, and it's up to you, but you can definitely sit on a chair. If you're sitting on a chair, just take a few minutes to feel the soles of your feet grounding on the ground. And if you're seated on a cushion or blankets or whatever it is you're seated on, if you're sitting cross-legged, let your knees relax as much as you can. You can also sit in like a hero's pose or virasana with the shins and the knees facing down parallel towards one another. Just choose whatever it is that's going to be comfortable for you. And take a few minutes kind of like noticing your sits bones. So actually feel right to left, kind of like wobble side to side. You could kind of move back and forth. You could do like a circle with the torso so that you can actually feel that central axis of your spine. And then when you feel like that central axis of your spine kind of centering over the pelvis, pause there and grow nice and tall. And then I'll introduce a mudra today. So mudra it's a seal basically to bring about a certain intention or energy and intensify it or lock it into the physical body. And this seal is with the right palm facing the ceiling and the left palm facing down. And then you're locking your fingers together, kind of like you're holding your own hands. And then you relax that in your lap. This is a mudra for strength, for strength to be who you are in this situation as it is, as awful and as scary as it is, to be able to be here and be in this particular moment in time. And maybe to ask yourself what it is what would be helpful, what would be calming, what would be reassuring, what would be relaxing, or what it is that you might need to learn in this moment right now. So relax your elbows, let them be soft, relax your shoulders, let them shift over your hips, relax your ears over your shoulders. If it feels okay, you can close your eyes. If you'd rather keep your eyes open, just lower the gaze to the floor or the tip of the nose. And as we pause here in this seated position, moving the body towards stillness, let's let that first awareness be of the physical body. So you might start to notice from the crown of the head first, starting with the head, to the neck and the shoulders, length of the spine, the pelvis, the legs, and then whatever is in contact with the floor, the outer edges of the legs or the soles of the feet, notice that too. And the second place of awareness, the second element of our practice will be the breath. So breathing in through the nose, if you're able, and breathing out through the mouth these first few rounds. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Try that a few times on your own, in through the nose, out through the mouth. You might notice a slight difference in temperature. The inhale breath tends to be slightly warmer. Sorry, I always get these backwards. Inhale breath tends to be slightly cooler. Exhale breath tends to be slightly warmer. Gentle feel of the lips. Start to just breathe in and out through the nose, nice and slow. And still noticing that really subtle difference in temperature. Inhale breath, slightly cooler. Exhale breath, slightly warmer. Take 5 more breaths just in this way, in and out through the nose. Slow, smooth. Acknowledging the difference in temperature between inhale and exhale breath. Last couple of rounds. Now, if you have your eyes closed, you can keep them closed. Otherwise, just keep that gaze really soft on the floor. Release your mudra. Just let your hands rest face down on the thighs or the knees, elbows still soft. Start to take the head, the neck, and make circles in one direction. So choosing one direction, we're going to just stay on this side for a few moments. Nice, slow, small circles with the head and the neck. And then if you want to let that circle be a little bit bigger or slower or quicker, start to add your own flavor, what is appropriate for you, what makes sense for your body, for your neck, for your shoulders. Stay with that, a couple more rounds on this side. And so the next time the chin comes down towards the chest, let's pause there, breathe for a few moments, just take a few breaths into the back of the neck, the back of the shoulders. And then we'll take the opposite direction with that circular motion. And just start out small and let it be exploratory. You don't have to start to force yourself into some sort of range of motion or some sort of velocity. Let it be small, let it be exploratory. And then the body will give you the signal if you need to change something, change the range of motion, pause somewhere, slow it down or speed it up. Start to tune into your body and its physical needs. A few more rounds in this second direction. And then the next time the chin moves towards the chest, pause there again. Take a few breaths into the back of the neck. Keep relaxing the shoulders, let the elbows be soft. And if the eyes are closed, you can just softly blink them open, take in the space around you, colors of the floor, your yoga mat. Arriving into this space, into your practice, we'll set up our first shape, and you'll need a couple of props. So again, I mentioned at the beginning of class that I have this extra layer of blanket on top of my yoga mat. Since we are doing a restorative practice, I always like to advocate for more and more comfort, more and more props. Second thing I'll have you grab is pillow, couch cushion, or if you do have bolsters, you can absolutely use those. And we'll set it off towards that right hip. And then you're going to set your legs into kind of like a pinwheel or a stag leg shape. And so again, your support system, your cushions, your pillows, whatever that is, next to the right hip or right thigh. And then that right shin's just kind of parallel with the top edge of your mat or whichever direction you're facing. That left knee is going to internally rotate to the left inner thigh is pointing down towards the ground. And if I can move my kitty, you'll be able to see that. So you can make kind of two right angles. That's a lot harder for most of us. Definitely harder for me. So to make it a little bit easier, sometimes I'll move my left knee towards my right heel, so it's a little bit less than 90 degrees with that left leg. I'll turn to the side so you can see what it looks like to the side. So my right shin's parallel with the top edge of my mat, and then I'm just playing with this range of motion with my left leg. Okay, so if you come out of the hip, that's a little bit more intense. Left knee towards the right heel, a little bit less intense, usually for most bodies, maybe not for you. So just explore that. And then we'll sit up nice and tall. We'll turn over our right thigh towards our right hip, towards where you've set up your props. And you'll just sit up nice and tall here, framing out that prop with your fingertips. Take a big breath in here. Big breath out. And then you can start to slowly work your torso and your belly down onto your props. So you could come down to your forearms first. And I would recommend starting with the right cheek facing down. So your right cheek's facing the same direction as your knees. Gaze same direction as your knees as you come into this first shape. And if you get down into this and it's too intense, add more props underneath your torso, underneath your belly, so that you bring the floor up to meet you. You don't force yourself down to the floor. I'm going to use my cat as a pillow today. All right, here we go. Nice and soft. Just let your neck, your chest, your belly soften. Shoulders relax. Start to breathe deep. And I advocate for nasal breathing for so many reasons, but in particular right now, because our nostrils have a natural air filtration system. That's our nose hair. It's there for a purpose. So if you're one of those people that pulls your nose hairs out, you actually need those. Please don't do that. My husband does it. Drives me crazy. So we need our nose hairs to filter out natural pollutants. Breathing in and out through the nose will help you do that. Versus the mouth, if you open your mouth, there's nothing there that's going to really filter pollutants from just going right down your throat into your mouth. Now we're in kind of a gentle twist to begin our practice. Belly sort of facing down towards your cushion. In this first shape, can you start to take your awareness into your back ribs, into your back body, back lungs? Imagine breathing in there. Keep softening your jaw, your shoulders. If you have a regular restorative or yin practice, you are familiar with our long hold. In these practices, we hold our shapes from anywhere from 1 to 5 to sometimes 10 minutes. And this can be really challenging for the average person who's used to not sitting still for a period of a time. So if your mind starts to get really active, know that that is normal, that the mind is just doing its job. And really the practice is about acknowledging those thoughts as they come up, allowing them, and then see if you can let them pass by like you would watch a cloud pass by in the sky. About halfway through this first shape, and I'll give you the option if you would like to turn the gaze away from the knees, so gently picking up the head, turning the gaze away, letting the left cheek relax onto your cushions, your props, whatever you're lying on. That tends to be a bit more of an intense twist through the spine, so if it's too much, just let your right cheek come back down, come back to that more neutral position. So really try not to force anything. Only going further if the body is asking you for more, if the body is saying it's okay. Not the mind, not the ego, but the body. Again, noticing the mind, if you've gone down a narrative or rabbit hole, some particular story, can you acknowledge that? Allow it. And then what would it be like to let it kind of pass by, like watching a cloud move through the sky? If you turned your gaze away from your knees so that your left cheek was down, really slow, take your time. Just unwind the neck so you bring your right cheek back to your cushion, your support. Take a few breaths there. Nice and gentle when you're ready, palms underneath the shoulders. Slowly press your way up to a seat. Take your time with your exits, and I'd consider your exits and your entrances into these shapes just as important as being in the shape itself, so really go slow. So that left leg, you can just swing it back in front of that right shin. Sit up nice and tall through center for a moment. Big breath in, big breath out. 2 more breaths here. And then we'll take whatever we were using on that right hip, pick it up, move it off towards that left hip, that left thigh. So your left shin should be in front. You'll take your right knee and internally rotate that right leg, and then play with that distance from the left foot. So again, remember you have the ability maybe to move that right knee back a little bit more towards a 90-degree angle, or bring it a little bit closer towards that left heel, less than the 90-degree, more like 45. And then know that this side might feel a lot different, so be prepared to use more or less support as makes sense for your body. When you're ready, you can turn over your left hip, turn over your left thigh, frame out whatever you're using for your support with your fingertips. Take a big breath in here, even though you know where you're going. Just elongate the spine for a moment, big breath in. And then on your breath out, slowly come down to forearms. You're starting off nice and slow. Left cheek on your cushion. Your gaze is in the same direction that your knees are pointing. Take a few moments to settle here, adjust anything that needs to be adjusted. You don't have to immediately drop into a pose and become stuck in it. If something's not working, if something needs to be moved or shifted, always give yourself that opportunity to make adjustments. When you're ready to start settling, it's a very subtle shift. Start to come back to that acknowledgement first of the breath. Can you start to take the air in and out through the nose? And then move that awareness of the breath into the back body. Back ribs, back of the lungs. You start to feel your shoulders, your jaw, your neck. Relax, soften. Imagine as if each exhalation, each time you exhale, the body becomes a little bit more heavy, a little bit more soft, a little bit more relaxed. So about halfway through now, if you want to lift up your head and really slow rotate that right cheek down so you're gazing away from your knees, you can. Again, mindful choices. So if you get into that and you feel kind of a crunchy, pinchy, or a sharp pain anywhere in the spine, neck, or shoulders, you will really want to back out of that. We're looking for more softness, more spaciousness, more relaxation, less force, less pushing the body. So more allowance. Let it be what it is. If you have turned your gaze away from your knees, start to really slowly turn that gaze back so that now your left cheek is back down to your cushion. Really take your time with that transition. Once the left cheek is resting, pause there for a few moments. When you're ready, start to walk your hands underneath your shoulders. Take your time to press your way up. We'll swing that right leg forward. Find that brief, real brief seated position. Grow tall through the center. Big breath in. Big breath out. 2 more breath rounds right here. Notice how your spine feels. All right, so we'll take the next shape as a progression of what we just did in that kind of like a supine facing twist, and now we'll take it on our backs. Actually, sorry, so prone. Supine is facing up. Now we'll take that supine twist. So this is more of a traditional twist that you all probably are familiar with, but we're going to add a bunch of props to it. So here's what I recommend. When you're coming to your back in a twist, I recommend taking an extra folded blanket underneath the back of the head. So you're not adding a ton of extra height underneath the back of the head, but a little bit. So maybe like an inch, 2 inches at the most of support for the back of the head. This will help keep your spine in a more neutral position as you twist your cervical spine. And then the second prop that I'd like you to grab is either that cushion that you used to lay your chest on just a few moments ago, or towels or blankets. Set that off to the left side. I'm going to use my softer pillows for this one, so I'm going to take these guys. These are just my couch throw pillows, but I think they're filled with down, so they're a lot more forgiving. And then we're just going to come onto our backs, knees bent, feet planted, and adjust that blanket or towel, whatever's underneath the back of the head, so that it's just underneath the back of the head. Right? So not your shoulders. Your shoulders are still on your mat or your other blanket. Now, pressing into your feet, lift your hips up a little bit, move your hips off to the right, just a few inches. You're kind of making your spine do this really adjacent thing. And then take both of your knees off to the left where your cushions are waiting for you. So you're on your back. Hopefully the shoulders are feeling good and relaxed. If not, add a little bit more height underneath your knees and maybe a little bit more height underneath the back of the head. You could take your arms straight wide out to the sides like a big capital T, or you could bend the elbows like a goalpost shape. If there's a lot of space in between your two thighs, then grab one of your extra props and slide a prop in between the thighs. Or like I said, you can always add more height underneath the outer edge of that left knee. Now, your left arm, see if you can get that left shoulder blade moved away from the spine a little bit. So kind of extend through your left arm, your left shoulder, beyond the left side of your mat. And maybe a little bit with the right arm. So you're getting more of your shoulder blade spread out flatter onto your mat, onto your back. With the head, I usually start out by just having my gaze face the ceiling, and oftentimes I'll spend my entire twist like that with a neutral cervical spine. So notice where your gaze is. Can you find something neutral to start? Twisting shapes are such a good way to detox vital organs of the body, and something that I think we could all use right now, keeping vital organs of the body healthy, immune system healthy, So if you kind of think about like wringing out a wet rag, you twist and you twist and you twist and you wring it out, you start to see that water squeezing out of the cloth. And when then you unwind it, it's a little bit drier, a little bit flatter. Body is similar in that way, but when we unwind out of our twist, because we're kind of compressing, we get a fresh flow of blood and oxygen to the body parts that we're twisting right now. So we're still in our twist, we're just holding here, finding that nice deep belly breath. Keep relaxing the shoulders. Relax the jaw. Relax the forehead skin. Keep coming back to your breath. The work is really acknowledging and allowing the mind, allow it to do its thing, but with awareness. And can you notice when you start to go down that maybe a similar path or a new path, when you catch yourself doing that, you imagine that thought like a cloud. Imagine it floating away or dissipating in the sky. Take about 3 more breaths here on this first side. When you're ready to unwind your spine, go slow. We're going to come right back to that starting position with the pelvis down, knees bent, and feet planted. And then adjusting the hips back in line with the shoulders. So I'll give you the choice here to remain with your knees bent and your feet planted, or extend your legs out long, kind of like a little mini Shavasana. If you're extending your legs out long, it might feel nice to wave your feet right to left. Anything you want with your arms, just let it be relaxed. Take a few moments, wherever you are, in a neutral position to let your body be and to acknowledge that felt sense in the body after you release out of a pose. Is it new? Is it old? Is it achy? Is it delicious? Is it tingly? Is it spacious? What does it feel like? Two more breaths. Okay, so however you like, I'd like you to transition your pillows, your props off to your right side, off to your right hips, your knees, and then come back to that bent knee position with your feet planted. The knees are bent, feet are planted, pressing into the feet. Just pick up the hips, move them off to the left a few inches. And then you can start to move your knees off to the right, where your pillows, your support system's waiting for you. And then assess what kind of adjustments you might need to make. You might need to add more props to allow the body to relax comfortably into this. Or something might be just a little bit off. So adjust it. Or be still and notice. And then let's see if we can get that right scapula, the shoulder blade, a little bit away from the spine. So move your right arm wide off to the right side. A little bit more of a sense of expansion or spaciousness across the back body. And then choose how you'd like to rest your arms. The elbows can be bent, the arms can be straight. Anything that feels comfortable. Start off with that neutral neck. The gaze up towards the ceiling is what I recommend. It's what works best in my body. So try it if it doesn't work best in your body. Choose something that does. And starting to settle back into stillness, back into the breath. Maybe you become aware again of that inhale breath being slightly cooler, the exhale breath being slightly warmer. You can use that as an anchor point to the breath. Take about 3 more breaths here on this second side. Really slow when you're ready, start to unravel. Come back to that neutral position. So adjusting the hips back in line with the shoulders. And again, you can choose to have the knees bent and feet planted or extend the legs. Sorry, Kitty. Just pausing for a few moments to let that residual sensation move through the body. Take 3 breaths wherever you are. Okay, so if your legs are stretched out, rebend the knees, plant your feet, rolling off to a side. Press into your hands and make your way up to a seated position. So we'll take, this one's going to take us a few minutes to set up, and I'm going to give you a couple of different options here. And you're probably going to have to get creative at home with what you have, so be creative. So here are your options. We're setting up a supported shoulder stand, Salamba Sarvangasana, which if any of you have a vinyasa practice, you might be familiar with shoulder stand where the weight's on the shoulders mainly, a little bit of cervical spine in the back of the head, and then the rest of the body is kind of in this inverted position. So we're not doing that, but we are getting the heart and the rest of the body above the head and the shoulders. And we'll do that with our props. So I kind of play with the particular height that is going to work for my thoracic spine. And the thoracic spine is the middle and upper back. So it's the least flexible part of the spine. So be really gentle with yourself. You don't, this bolster, this cushion that I have is really super thick and it's a lot less forgiving, like I said. So at home, you can use stacks of blankets, you can use cushy pillows. And if you're using multiple pillows like this, what I'd recommend is then taking a blanket on top of that so that when you sit on this, your butt doesn't like go halfway down and then your pillows spread apart. This is where your strap also might come in handy. So you do have a strap at home, like I said, you can loop it up like you would a regular strap. You can also use this belts at home. You can use a tie, and we're just gonna loosely wrap this around our thighs to keep our legs from falling off either side of this cushion that my cat has so nicely planted herself on. So the first option here I mentioned, I'm going to give you a couple of options. First option is laying most of your body here, and you're kind of like, what I suggest is make it long enough that the thoracic spine down, so to the feet, get that lift. And then the shoulders, the cervical spine, the back of the head are just slightly below, up at the top of your mat. So I'll show you what that looks like, and just watch me here for a moment because it's a little bit tricky to get into it. especially when you have a kitty who wants to lay on what you're trying to lay on. So this is what the strap is for. You can take it or leave it. It goes around the thighs just to keep the legs from flying off of your cushion. And then what I'm looking for when I come down to my back is that little lift right underneath my scapula. So kind of like underneath the armpit right there. And then the shoulders, the neck, and the back of the head are below my heart, my hips, and my feet. So I'm basically in an inversion, right? So this is option number 1. And then I'll give you option number 2. So for some of us, this is going to feel like a lot of sensation. For some of us, it's going to feel like not a lot of sensation. And whatever it is, it doesn't really matter so much as long as you can breathe and find a sense of relaxation. So here's option number 2. I just added my chair at the end of my mat because that will help. Sometimes when we get into this shape, that kind of back bend like sensation in the lumbar spine could be a little bit much. So you're still in an inversion, but you get a little bit more relaxation or softness in the lumbar spine. That's the low back. So you can add a chair to the edge, the bottom part of your mat if you want to decrease that lumbar sensation. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself right now and ask, because this one is a little bit trickier of a setup. I'm going to give you the next few moments to kind of play with that and or ask me a question. Just don't be shy. And then, you know, if this setup just feels like, oh gosh, this is too much, then just take your legs over the back of the chair, because that's an inversion as well, and it works just as well. All right. Once you get on your back, just kind of check in with your shoulder blades. So the majority of your shoulder is, again, on the mat, not lifted. And it's just like the very tip of your shoulder blades that's at that lift. So like the back of the heart, slightly below the back of the heart, that's lifted on the support of your cushions or whatever you've stacked underneath your spine. And then be sure that your feet are supported, because if your feet are down on the mat and you have this bow in your back, that's really more of a back bend, a lot less of an inversion. If you need to add a little extra propping underneath the feet, go ahead, do that. So be here for about 5 minutes, but know that if that becomes too much for you, I'd like you to just back out at any point in time. You can come to a child pose. You can swing your legs up the wall or the backs of the legs over the chair. This really is a practice of learning how to take care of yourself, learning how to listen. I'm really just your guide. You're your own best teacher. So similarly, when we were in the twist, arms, they can stretch straight out to the side like a capital T. You can make a cactus, bend the elbows, find something that's comfortable. Notice the chin in relationship to the forehead. Chin, tuck it slightly down so that it's maybe in line with the forehead or slightly below the forehead. Hopefully that relaxes the back of the neck a little bit. At the beginning of class, I asked you to bring your awareness to the back ribs, the back body. And now with this sense of awareness, of openness to the front body, let's bring our awareness to the front ribs and the belly. And let that breath be really full and expansive, in and out through the nose. By now you've had some practice by acknowledging the thoughts as they arise, bringing your awareness to the thoughts. And practice in letting those thoughts pass, watching them go. Notice if it's getting any easier. And if not, don't judge it, just acknowledging that this is a practice. Practicing the awareness of your experience, your perception, the chatter of the mind, and the practice of letting it all go. Take about 5 slow, deep breaths here, wherever here is. Acknowledge where you are and what you are doing and why you are doing it. So if you have that strap around the thighs, just be mindful of that. And when you're ready, nice and slow, bend the knees. You could do it one at a time. Let your feet rest at the whatever is at the bottom of your mat. So maybe the feet are kind of resting on the chair or on the props that are there. Just take a few moments. Your choice, you can leave that strap there if it's there. You can snake it off the legs. Either way, we'll come off to a side. So we'll roll all the way off of our props, roll into fetal position, and pause in your fetal position. Doesn't matter which side you go to. Take a few moments to feel your shoulders and your hips stacked, lying on your side. Continue, press into your hands, come up to a seated position. So our next shape will be some kind of a forward fold. I'm going to give you a few options like I usually do and ask that you choose what's most appropriate for you and your body. Forward folding can be just kind of like a nemesis for me and my spine sometimes. So it can be challenging. It can feel like a lot. So know that you have options. And the first option that I'm going to show you is using that chair that I had you grab. So this will be an option for a wide-legged forward fold seated on your chair, which is why I suggested not having arms. If you do have arms in your chair, no big deal. I'll give you other options. So if you're taking this wide-legged seated forward fold, you'll just take your feet out to the side, let your knees point out in the same direction as your toes. And then you might take, if you have extra blankets, you might take a folded blanket and just kind of like wrap it around your belly like a belt. And then you can start to build a tower of props underneath you, like pillows and lots of pillows and more pillows, so that when you start to forward fold, it's a lot easier to lay the arms, the forearms down and relax the head. Okay, so this is option number one. Option number two would be to do this seated on the floor. And this one's kind of cool to use as a chair too, as a prop too, in a wide-legged forward fold, because it becomes a little shelf. So your legs can come right out to the side, you can fold your arms and just relax your head down onto this little shelf. And again, we're bringing the floor up to meet us. And third option, if neither of those work and then like the chair is just all wrong for whatever reason, child's pose is a great way to take a forward fold because you're flexing the hips, you're getting that nice elongation of the spine, you're letting the forehead rest. So maybe it's child's pose for you. And if you want to take the knees wide, big toes touching, you can stretch the arms forward as long as that's comfortable. So choose something that is going to work for you and your body. I'll give you a couple of minutes to get that set up. So this will be our last pose before we head into Shavasana, just FYI. If you are taking child's pose, please let your forehead be resting on something tangible, whether it's the backs of your hands or the mat itself or some kind of prop. Let your forehead be supported by something that you can actually feel underneath your forehead, not space, not air. Start to settle in. Use each exhalation to feel that sense of weight, softness. about 5 more breaths wherever you are. Nice and slow. When you're ready, start to release out of your forward fold. So take your time. Just briefly, when you've released, sit up nice and tall. Take a few neutral breaths with a nice tall spine. From this place, you might start to think about how you'd like to set up your final Shavasana. You can simply just lie back on your back. You can prop yourself in a lot of different ways in Shavasana. So chair underneath the backs of the knees is always great in Shavasana, especially if laying down flat on your back is painful or uncomfortable for any length of time. If you're familiar with the belly down Shavasana, sometimes they teach it as an actual pose and it's something that you like, feel free to take that. So yeah, prop yourself. Little tips for parasympathetic nervous system, something in contact with the backs of the knees, like a rolled blanket or pillows, some weight on the belly, again, blankets or pillows, or a cat if he or she is willing, small child, anything that adds weight to the belly. Covering the eyes, allowing that internal awareness, that internal gaze to be the forefront of this particular part of your practice. So take your time making your way there. And once you're settled, any last minute adjustments you need to make them. And then inhaling nice and deep through the nose. Just like we did at the beginning of class, open the mouth, exhale the air out. Do that twice more. Open mouth, exhale. Maybe even let an audible sigh out. And a very gentle feel of the lips, air in and out through the nose. Eyes are closed. The eyes start to feel as if they were heavily sinking into their sockets deeper. Let your back teeth part. Let your tongue widen at the base of your mouth. Tip of your tongue rest at the bottom row of your teeth. Soften the jaw. Soften the forehead skin. The flesh around the eyes. Relax. With each exhalation, feel the body become more and more heavy. If you've come to a place of peace in your Shavasana, please feel free to stay as long as you like. You can ignore these next few instructions. If you're ready to move on, really slow, add gentle movement into fingertips and toes. Move the head side to side. On an inhalation, stretch the arms up and overhead. Breathe into the length of the body. On an exhalation, bend the knees, roll off to a side. Continue, press into your hands, rise up to a comfortable seated position. And again, let it be comfortable. Let it be supported seat. I invite you to join me in taking the mudra again that we did at the beginning of class. Right palm on bottom facing up, left palm on top facing down. Interlock the fingers, relax the arms in the lap. Soften the elbows. Take a moment here to acknowledge your effort, your practice, the strength of this mudra to be in this position, do this hard thing, live in this world right now, in this particular moment in time. Acknowledge what your intention is or was. Allow yourself to reset. Take 3 breaths here. Finally, join your hands together at your heart, bow your chin to your chest, acknowledge the infinite wisdom of the heart space. May we use the fruits of this practice to serve our highest good, to reach our highest potential, and share it with those around us that we love and who could use healing. Together as a collective, as a community, we send love and healing to all sentient beings around the world that may be suffering. May they be happy. May they be free. Namaste.